Yo, what up? It's Casper. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about the movie Mickey 17. Mickey 17 is a 2025 film. It's rated R and it's 2 hours and 17 minutes. Directed by Bong Joon Ho. So with the director, I've seen his movie Parasite. A lot of those characters in that movie, in my opinion, were very interesting. And the fact that it was not a English type of movie made that movie way more worth it to watch. Just that storyline in general, very insane. Robert Pattinson is in this movie, trying to get more into his catalog, still getting a little adjusted to his Batman role. So not too familiar with Robert Pattinson's lifestyle or the way he sounds or the way he talks. So in this movie, he has a very unique Irish type of tone, kind of like a leprechaun type of accent. He was one of those things. Is this movie gonna either throw me off with his voice the whole time, or is it gonna be something where I'm like, okay, I actually got used to it, and actually there's gonna be something cool to go along with this character, especially with his voice being what it was in this movie. I really do feel I could have watched it in the movie theaters, because visually while watching this movie is actually really cool to see. There's a lot of interesting things to look at, a lot of scenarios where they're actually putting Robert Pattinson's character Mickey Barnes in. The whole movie in general just has an interesting story, an interesting idea. A lot of aspects of this movie just makes you think, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually happening right now. The movie is about Robert Pattinson's character Mickey Barnes. So there's a space mission going on pretty much by billionaire people experimenting with reprinting humans. And the movie explains how the technology is ran, but with Robert Pattinson's character, he basically accepts the fact that he can have this job. One thing about it is that he's gonna keep dying. His memories are always intact, so every time he gets reprinted, he's able to pick up back from where he left off from the last body he was in. With that being said, he is called an expendable, which is ran by Mark Ruffalo's character Kenneth Marshall. He basically sends Mickey 17 into a crazy ice planet. He has to go find one of those alien looking insects that look like roly-polies and bring it back to base, and he's sent on that mission because he can, if he dies, he can get reprinted. So with being sent on that ice planet to go test and capture these crazy looking roly-poly alien creatures, the people at base think that Mickey died, so they reprinted another one thinking that the 17 had died. This is where the movie ends up taking off. Robert Pattinson's character now knows that there's a regenerated, reprinted version of himself, and his 17, number 17 version of himself hasn't died yet. That's what the movie is about. That's the main idea. He's the main test dummy in literally everything. Vaccines, checking how foods will work, artificial foods will work on humans. So he's the test dummy for real life scenarios, the fact that he can get reprinted. The movie started right away. It went straight into the character being introduced. Thought it was a cool choice, a cool flow into it. Things that caught my eye in the beginning was just hearing Robert Pattinson's voice. Him playing the Batman and being in this movie role threw me off a little bit, but in an interesting way. Robert Pattinson narrating in the beginning, a really fun idea, a really cool thing to basically bring the viewers into a perspective where someone's being tested for reprinting and seeing technology that a lot of people can't see. The one thing that kind of threw me off as well was just how the story in general was just unfolding bit by bit. The more in the beginning where we saw him in a scenario of, whoa, how did he get there? I thought that was a cool way to like just grab us back in. And then when we started to get more familiar with Mickey's character and we saw around how he got involved in there, the middle and the end of it, a lot of stuff, even though it's visually cool to see, a lot of the stuff was kind of just throwing me off. Was one of those things where you can see in the writing, you can laugh at and be like, okay, like this is a movie, you know, so it's not too realistic, so we can add these little things. But there is key moments in here where you're actually appreciating what they're going for and the idea on presenting this story. Very good choices, comic book vibe and comic book scenarios where you're seeing a lot of the scenarios that he dealt with before being at that job that he accepted. And I thought that was a good idea and cool build up. Took him out of a box that I feel like he's kind of in, especially me only knowing him for his Twilight roles and getting adjusted to that Batman role. So okay performance, Stephen Young's performance, as well as Timo, even though it wasn't as much, but I do feel like he was a great additional character to help the movie flow. Mark Ruffalo, who plays Kenneth Marshall, whole performance felt like he was a robot slash Trump in one. Very greedy, rich vibes, and I think he knew how to put out that performance very well. Even though his character was kind of annoying, you did kind of have fun with his character because it was kind of cheesy, but in an interesting, amusing way. But you knew that if you had him on this, you know, casting list, that you knew he was gonna do what he had to do. There was one part in the movie where they kind of showed, it was later in the movie, where they showed how the ribs and the stuff in the body gets printed. If they showed a little bit more of that, I would have been way more freaked out, creeped out, and more of like, yo, this is really onto something. Those roly-poly, crazy looking things that had, you know, fangs and a mouth and teeth, absolutely creepy. I think the way they looked was a good idea, but later in the movie, when you find out they're friendly, that's where it kind of threw me off. You're scared of them, but then you're not. Characters in the movie are scared of them, but then some of them are not, and then you see how these personalities are just, whoa, how did we end up here again? There's moments like that where it's just like, damn, they could have had a cool, very strong move with just keeping them scary, but then when you make them friendly and then you can talk to them, the writing for it, the idea of it, you kind of respect where it came from, and that's the only thing that I would say about it. But the fact that it could have had a stronger point, or maybe it just more of a straightforward perspective than just out of nowhere them just being nice. Damn, it could have had a good promise, but then it didn't really satisfy you at the end. Even with the jokes they had with those creatures, kind of threw me off as well. But you gotta shout out the director, because good quality perspective shots in this movie where you're like, damn, you know, it looks good, but dang, the writing, really? Especially when you meet Mickey 18, now you're dealing with a different personality, like kind of like an evil villain. Don't these other Mickeys remember how to stay online, stay kind of the same? Like, is it every reprinting or every version more dumb or more smarter? Like, why is this personality a little bit different? But overall, what we're watching, you're just trying to see those little small things and trying to make things pass, and that was one of them. Character Nasha, her being involved in the romance side of it, very weird and very random. Being the lover and then being the hero, random scenarios. I don't know. I think it was just the writing in general where it could have been here, but then the fact that they chose this direction, so now we're here. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Either you're gonna like it or you don't, and I think it's all about the choices at the end of it. But I'll say costume design for a lot of these characters was great. The environment was awesome. The acting for a lot of these actors, I would say, you know, held up to what the standard of this movie was trying to do. There's a lot of mixture in this movie, and you can definitely feel those vibes, especially comedy, action, sci-fi. It's all over the place. When I looked at the movie poster, not even knowing what this movie was about, I thought this movie was a straight war movie. The cover with Robert Pattinson looks like he's going to war. He looks like he's one of those aircraft jet pilots in space doing something crazy up there, and that's what I thought the movie was going to be about. If you were a homie of someone who's a writer and they present you this idea, it coming off from another novel, you'll be like, hey, I can see why you went and want to kind of expand that novel. If I'm not mistaken, the original novel is called Mickey 7, so you're adding 10 more people to kill and regenerate and reprint. I can see where a writer would want to expand and kind of add to an original idea. How the movie ends, I still feel like it could have been a little bit stronger. Those roly-polies on steroids, man, they did look scary, but wish they didn't focus too much on those close angles on them, and then the communicating part, and the fact that they had to save a baby. Very wild. Interesting story, and let me know what you guys think about this movie. After my watching the movie Mickey 17 out of 10, I'm gonna have to give this movie a 7 out of 10. That's my movie review for the movie Mickey 17. Shout out to you guys for tuning into the video. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, y'all.